Hello, I'm just going to introduce Elizabeth to you just to remind you a bit about her and just remind you about some of the problems that she faced when she became the Queen. So first of all, we need to go back in time a little bit, and we need to remember that she's the daughter of Henry VIII. And Henry VIII was very famously married to his first wife, who was called Catherine of Aragon, but he produced with her only a daughter called Mary, and he wanted a male heir to carry on to become a king after he died. So what he did was he divorced her and broke away from the Catholic Church. But he couldn't get the divorce in a normal way by going to the Pope and getting an annulment, so he had to break away from the church and make his own church to grant himself the divorce. When he got married to his new wife, Anne Boleyn, um, he had a daughter with her, and that was Elizabeth. Many people said that because his first wife, Catherine of Aragon, was still alive when he had Elizabeth, that they called her illegitimate, and by saying that she was illegitimate, that meant that she could not inherit the throne. Another problem was that when Henry fell out of love with Anne Boleyn and wanted to move on to his next wives, and he actually executed Anne Boleyn, he declared that Elizabeth was illegitimate at that point. So when Elizabeth did become queen, there were two reasons why people said that she was illegitimate. Number one, because the Pope had not granted the divorce that had allowed Henry to remarry, and number two, because Henry himself at some stage in his life had said in 1536, had said that she was illegitimate. So many people questioned her legitimacy that way. Another problem that she faced at this time was her gender. Many people at this time expected that because a woman was weaker than a man in the mind, in emotions, and things like that they wouldn't be capable of thinking for herself, and she would need a husband or a man to guide her. They also believed it was the duty of a female to produce an heir, so there was a lot of pressure on her to do that. One of the reasons why they wanted them to have an heir was there needed to be some kind of stability. With Elizabeth, there was no true clear heir for when she died who would take over the throne, so they wanted her to get married to have a child who could take over the throne when she died. She could also use a husband to build up an alliance, but the problem was if you built up a foreign alliance with a foreign suitor, that would possibly mean that he would put her interests first and bring his country into war. Her sister had also made queens look quite bad. She'd gone to war with France and lost. There'd been poor harvest and a poor economy under her, and in addition to that as well, she'd burned Catholics quite harshly. So therefore many people questioned whether a queen could do a good job because Mary had set quite a poor standard before her. When we talk about the religious issues, we need to consider that Elizabeth inherited some religious problems when she became queen. Her sister before her had been Catholic, and her brother before that had been Protestant, so the country had constantly been changing with religion at this time. The aim of Elizabeth here needed to be to bring religious stability to her country. Many people say that Elizabeth was an intelligent monarch, that she had really good education, she knew lots of languages like Greek and French and Italian, and it was her kind of intelligence that allowed her to make good decisions which would help her rule the country.